If you're heading to a dinner soon, instant piece of value here because professional chefs from all around the world, down low in the comments, have left either theirs or their team's favorite snacks, treats, gifts, all the ideas. So if you're in a store right now panicking or you're about to head to a restaurant, just scroll down to the comments. We got you. Thanks so much for treating the staff, and I hope you enjoy your meal. Do this. What's up, folks? Justin Khanna here, back with you to talk all about the question, the most popular inquiry that I get after I post a This Place Called episode, which is, Justin, when you go and give gifts to the staff, how do you do it? What do you buy? Where do you shop from? When do I give it to them? So let's talk about it. And yes, people in the comments might have other thoughts, other ways of doing this, different etiquette practices, depending on what they like to see or what they like to do. But here's how I approach it. Make it shareable, make it interesting, make it durable. Let's get into each one. The shareable piece comes from the fact that unless you have worked at this restaurant or been into this space before, you probably don't know how big the staff is. And the best gifts from guests are usually the ones where the chef at the pass can get the bag that you gifted, look inside, see that there's a Halloween-sized bag of Sour Patch Kids, bust open that bag, and give individual ones to each of the line cooks. A counterpoint to that, an example that's not so shareable, let's say there's a pastry shop just down the street and they do a phenomenal carrot cake and they serve it by the slice. You get a box that has a slice of carrot cake in it, and you think you're giving a really nice gift to the staff. It's not all that shareable. Sure, it might be really appreciated that you got that for them, but it's super unlikely that the person working row station and getting completely slammed right now is going to get to enjoy that, at least during service, unless someone individually portions that cake slice into 7 different pieces and brings it over to them with a fork. The way I think about it is make it shareable so that it's easy to divvy up so that someone's service can be better. That's how I approach it. I wrote down some great examples here of shareable items. I have big bags of candy, 6-packs or 12-pack boxes of energy drinks or beers or iced coffee. Yerba mate was popular for a while, and chefs really like that because it's like a caffeinated tea, but it doesn't exactly have the crash. Sometimes it's flavored. Juice shots is another beverage that I've done before that I hope went over pretty well. An example of a beverage that's not so shareable is like a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey. Sure, it might be enjoyed later on in the evening, but it's not something that they can enjoy during the service because it's not easy to share. Talking about some food items, I have multiple bags of chips versus like a big ass large bag of chips. That's usually a little bit easier to divvy up and the person can just open the bag and keep it on their station. Pastries like kouign-amanns or macarons that you can buy like 12 of at a time, boxes of cookies like Oreos or Chips Ahoy. And I know you're probably like, Justin, you're asking me to gift high caliber chefs Oreos? And that gets to my second point, make it interesting. This meal was a while ago, so I can't exactly remember the specifics, but when we went to French Laundry, I'm almost positive we stopped at a Safeway before we went there, and that's where I got all the stuff that I put into that bag. I don't know if this is still a tradition that exists, but when I worked there, there was a tradition of putting Oreos that guests would get you up above the stove, so they would just get slightly warm, and then you would eat them during service. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it was a thing. So again, to keep it interesting, I got a box of regular Oreos, but Oreos has a ton of flavors they're coming out with at different points of the year. And so I also got a unique custom seasonal Oreo at the same time and put that in the bag too. And this applies to anything that you decide. If you're gonna get some iced coffee, sure, you could get the caramel Starbucks Frappuccino thing, or can you go to an Asian market and get a cool Japanese canned coffee instead? And notice I'm not saying weird, right? Interesting, meaning delicious has to come first, and then what is something that would get a chef excited? The same thing applies with something like chips, right? Like get your standard offering of Doritos, the snack size bag, so they can be divvied out evenly. But I just did a random search on what Lay's is making, and they have these things called Layers chips. They are sour cream and onion, and they look really cool. Or one of my new favorite snacks, my mother-in-law introduced me to these. They're made with corn, and they're fried or puffed, and they're seasoned like kettle corn. They're called popcorners. I'm almost positive I've gotten this for a restaurant in the past because it just looked interesting. And I'm like, worst case scenario, they end up trying it and not really liking it, but it sounds really good. That's what you're going for. That's what I mean by interesting. Something that you wouldn't probably buy for yourself, but something that you think a chef would probably think would be delicious or fun to eat. And the last point of the 3 is durable. Please don't get chocolate bars, a tub of gelato, an ice cream cake, fried mozzarella sticks. What else do I have? A really delicate pastry, a hot sandwich. Think to yourself, if I come in for my reservation at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, and the kitchen is just completely slammed, and no one gets to touch this for 3 hours. It gets forgotten about on a counter. Is it still gonna be good? And if the answer is no, don't buy that thing. I can remember working a roast station and I would get gifts that guests would bring us, and I would tell myself there is no chance I'm gonna get a chance to touch that for the next 45 minutes. And if that thing you got for me is going to melt next to the hardwood charcoal grill that I'm fanning constantly, yeah, that's probably gonna get thrown out, I'm sorry. I'll add some honorable mentions because there are a couple other rules here. The goal is not to provide a full meal to every single staff member, right? There's a point where if you bring too much, depending on the size of the staff, it's almost awkward. I really hope you're still watching because the cardinal rule of this, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, the most important thing with all of this is give without expectation. This is absolutely not a gift that you give in the hopes that you will get an extra course, a better table, a discount on your check. This absolutely has to be a out of the pure goodness of your heart appreciation gesture to the staff of that restaurant. And I want to stay on that point for a second because this is me divulging and making public a very industry practice. This is something that is normally just chef to chef, sommelier to restaurant, old restaurant GM to the kitchen team. As you folks know, I love chefs. I've worked in this industry for a long time. I love restaurants. And the last thing that I would want is to put out something like this and have this weird secondary transaction mentality that's all of a sudden happening at restaurants around the world. A good rule for this that might help is, would you still give this same gift the day after you went and enjoyed your meal at the restaurant? And if the answer is still yes, please continue. Continuing on some tips, let's talk about the timing for when you want to give this. I usually bring it with me and I have it in my hand, and whether it's the proverbial host stand, the first person to greet me at the restaurant, I usually take the bag and I say, can you please give this to the kitchen staff? And I do that because I don't like to bring a hefty bag over to the table with me, especially if it's a small restaurant and we're kind of having to like elbow our way through a couple of other diners. And again, this is a pure expression of generosity from me, and so this is not something where I want to order or I want to have the wine list in one hand and give the bag with the other hand, like, hey, wink, wink. It's not like that. Okay, last thing, speaking of bag, if you're anything like my wife who loves all things wrapping and gift bags and tissue paper, go ham. Take those supplies and bring them with you to the store that you're going to go shop at and load everything up into that bag. But honestly, and chefs in the comments can correct me, if you bring a gift and it is in a Target bag or a gas station bag, that is the least of our concerns. To that restaurant team, it's probably more about the fact that you're the only guest that night who managed to bring a gift for the team. And that's gonna be the thing that stands out, not the logo on the plastic bag that you handed them. All right, restaurant folks who made it to the end of the video, you can certainly let me know if you work front of house or back of house, and then leave your favorite snacks and or best gift from a guest experiences that you've had, because this will help inform what other people, guests that are probably coming to the restaurant you're working at now, can keep top of mind in order to make sure that they hook you up. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you found this helpful. Subscribe if you want to see more restaurant content, chef content, gear content, because I'm back into the swing of things of making things for 2022. Thank you so much for your attention. My name is Justin Khanna, and I hope you have a good one.